Okay, so Netflix's George Wolfe's Denzel Washington's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was one of the earliest films pegged as a major contender in this year's Oscar season, and the buzz around this film has been kind of all over the place. First, it seemed like a Viola Davis vehicle, and then as that grew, it started getting into the Best Picture race, and then Chadwick Boseman died and it became his final performance, so everyone was talking about that. Now that it's finally out and critics have given it overwhelming approval and it's available for everyone to see, we're going to take a look at how the film fares from an awards perspective. Early on, there was a lot of questioning whether Chadwick Boseman would be considered lead or supporting for awards. Some people thought Netflix's decision to put him in lead was exploiting his death to get away with category fraud, but now that the movie's out, he's the lead. Come on. He has more screen time than anyone else, including the titular Ma Rainey, there's no question. As for his performance, look, Chadwick was going to get nominated someday. Just look at the kinds of movies he was doing. And honestly, I believe he would have been nominated for this film even without his death. He is unhinged, but not over the top. He's charismatic, but not schmaltzy. If anything, it's really more of a Tony role than an Oscar role, and we'll get to that, but he sells the very difficult character of Levy and makes it work really well. And then, of course, he learned to play the trumpet for the role, and, awards voters love that kind of thing. A nomination is absolutely guaranteed, and right now, he's the frontrunner to win Best Actor. The only thing negative you could really say is that he's probably too old for this role, but it really doesn't take you out of it. Given the high praise he and the film are getting, I'm not sure what can happen for him to lose sans Anthony Hopkins dying, so expect a really emotional moment when the Boseman family accepts his Oscar on his behalf. Now, Viola Davis's character is certainly less dynamic than Levy, but her performance is perhaps just as challenging. Ma Rainey is a role that could very easily have come off as just an asshole or uptight or whatever, but Viola Davis finds a way to show you a softness and a vulnerability in a character that never really shows it. I kept waiting for her to have this tragic backstory monologue where you go, oh, that's why she's like this, but it never happened, and it turns out she didn't really need it. You get it just based on her circumstances and the way she talks to the rest of the ensemble. You understand. It's also difficult given that she's playing a real person in a film that doesn't provide any assistance on that front. This movie is not even close to a biopic, and it's basically just one day in the latter end of her career. No flashbacks or anything. She has to embody Ma Rainey and give us the impression of her history without really any dialogue to that effect. How Bohemian Rhapsody starts and Freddie Mercury is practicing before the Live Aid concert, and then we flash back to see his history? Imagine if that whole movie was just backstage before Live Aid happens, and that's all we see. That's basically all that Viola Davis gets. Now, of course, she's no stranger to awards. Many consider her Best Actress loss to Meryl Streep in 2012 to have been a snub, and her eventual Supporting Actress win for Fences to be category fraud. And something on a lot of people's minds has been the historic erasure of black women from awards and film in general. So, she's disadvantaged on that front, but the Academy likes to make up for past mistakes. Her major competition is Frances McDormand in Nomadland, but they just gave Frances Best Actress in 2018, and the momentum has been turning to Viola Davis for a few weeks now. And yes, she gained weight and she wears the Ma Rainey makeup, so campaign flyers get to call her role transformative. Okay, look, I know this one's a long shot, but Glynn Turman is having a great year with his work in Fargo and an appearance in the sort of awards contender The Way Back, and he's great. His role is the meatiest of the remainder of the ensemble, and he's got a couple of good Oscar reel moments. Honestly, I do think he could get into supporting actor, but it depends on how much Netflix wants to invest into a campaign. They're already trying to get in 12 different actors from Trial of the Chicago 7, so this is probably going to be a tough category for him. But if the film as a whole starts picking up major wins, you could see him show up come Oscar nominations time. Look, Ma Rainey's Best Picture contention seems kind of hopeless right now. It needs to pick up a lot of momentum, and currently the Critics' Awards aren't even giving it nominations for Best Picture. Despite the stellar reviews, I think it's held back by the same critique that August Wilson's last adaptation, Fences, got, and that's the overt theatricality of it. The film is basically just a play. You have 2 or 3 sets, it all takes place over the course of one day, and the performances are very theatrical. In fact, pretty much every member of the cast has tons and tons of stage experience, as does the director, as does lead producer Denzel Washington. And it's not doing that thing that some adaptations do, where they try really hard to convince you it's not a play. Personally, I thought this really worked, and it scratched some of that itch you get from being unable to see live theater due to COVID, but it turns off voters, and it's a Netflix film, so, you know. Ultimately, do I think it will get nominated? Probably. I find it hard to believe the Academy could give it the top 2 acting awards and still snub it for Best Picture, but it's not gonna win. Adapted screenplay is something that tends to get nominations for these theatrical films. I'm not entirely sure why, but it happens. I haven't seen the stage version, so I can't say how close this is to the original, but I doubt that most of the voters have seen it either. It's a really, really snappy script, and I'm sure that Denzel's affinity for August Wilson means he didn't let them chop up the dialogue, so it's probably just word for word the play. But like, Kenneth Branagh got nominated for Hamlet, and that's almost completely unchanged from the original, so who knows. I think, unfortunately, George C. Wolfe's direction is going to get ignored, and that's a real shame. The movie isn't very long, but it goes by even quicker than you think. And it's difficult to infuse a constant energy and motion into a movie about a bunch of people sitting in a recording studio on a hot summer day. He really does do an excellent job with this material, but he's probably gonna get snubbed like Denzel did for Fences. Best original score is something that people are sleeping on. It's possible that it doesn't qualify due to the use of existing songs, but this movie is almost a low-key musical. If it does qualify, I think we could see a nomination for original score. Also, this is a period movie, it's the 20s, and with that comes the expectations of nominations for production design, costumes, and makeup. But it just wasn't very flashy about those things. Like, the sets are nice, the costumes are nice, Ma Rainey's makeup is super interesting, but like, you really don't get much of those things. This is all one day, everybody's only got one outfit, you know? I will say the rare appearance of the exteriors were very convincing. I was 100% certain that this movie was shot in the real Chicago, but it wasn't. It's just the magic of the movies. Overall, I think Ma Rainey's Black Bottom suffers the double-edged fate of most acclaimed play adaptations. The performances will gather the majority of the attention, and they certainly deserve it, but the other aspects, like direction and the technicals, will be fighting an uphill battle. No film has ever won Best Actress and Best Actor and not been nominated for Best Picture, so it's probably going to show up there, but right now I don't see it winning for anything beyond its leads.